Sometimes it's better to stay in an independent scenario and just have your support factors coming in from your investors or, getting out here doing your own shows and just building that world up yourself. And if you come with great analytical numbers, you come with all the drivers that you need, meaning, look, I got all these videos shot, I got all these things done, my numbers look great. You're standing on a higher horse of assets where in cases where we have to go back and then produce these things, now you're already putting yourself on a debt sheet. We got to pay this back and that back and that back. A lot of people can complain about their deals, but a lot of times they're utilizing the label's lawyer. So at the end of the day, you need to have your own representation. If you walk in with your management, your legal team, you have, again, your collective assets. Now you're coming more to the table from a business scenario where you're offering the assets and drivers.
What's happening, babe?
Right now you listening to
Innovative Black Station.
Innovative Black Station. Innovative Black Station. The place where you can speak your
mind.
Your mind.
Welcome to the Innovative Black Station. It's your host, J.Black, and you're now tuned into another edition of Inside the Industry on the Innovative Black Station. Make sure y'all check out all the Innovative Black Station shows. You got DJ Samore's Top 5 Countdown, you got the Inside the Industry shows, and then, we also do event recaps. Today, man, Inside the Industry is a show where we interview professionals, the people around the artists. We try to give information, knowledge. We try to educate the people, the young professionals that's looking to get inside the industry. Today, man, we got an executive, with a long track record. He's been in the industry since he was a baby, basically his whole life. He's done a little bit of everything, made some huge deals. He worked with some of the biggest artists. We got Rob. What's going on?
What's going on?
How you doing today?
Hey, good to be on your show.
Yeah.
I really like what you're doing. I think it really helps everybody really engage more with the facts of, how things really operate instead of being stuck with the mystery. So it's positive, real positive.
Now you say it helps with the facts. What are some of the biggest misconceptions you feel people have of the music industry or just the end of the entertainment industry as a whole?
I'm an artist. I'm very talented, and give me every tool that I need to get my talent further to the masses, and I should be able to get all of the assets back and recoup from my energy. And I'm not too much focused on the fact of your investment. And that's where a lot of people get into the labels did me wrong. It's like, okay, well, your talent, and at the end of the day, you're like the liquid, your talent, creativity, and your writing and your recordings like the liquid. And then you as a brand, you're like the Coca-Cola can. But at the end of the day, you're still a product that we make investments into, and we need to see that return of principal investment, and then we go forth in the net profit. So it comes back down to artists being artistic is wonderful, but if you want to get into a business, then you should be a business person that has the ability to artistically do, whether it's music, drawing, whatever your art is, but definitely opening people's minds more to the business elements and self-investment. Because at the end of the day, I would rather do a JV with you. But if you can't dollar for dollar match me on a move, or you have your own investors to dollar for dollar match, now we're talking about other situations that people, don't trust a 360. Well, let's break down what that actually is. And as long as I'm doing the things that are going to benefit you, that get the masses to see and hear your brand and what you're capable of lyrically or singing wise or whatever, I'm doing my job. But those things are expensive. So it's all about young artists now identifying what they need to already have as assets under their belt, and then presentations. And sometimes it's better to stay in an independent scenario and just have your support factors coming in from your investors or, getting out here doing your own shows and just building that world up yourself. Because if you come to me as a label or Empire or Others Records or a multitude of labels, and if you come with great analytical numbers, you come with all the drivers that you need, meaning, look, I got all these videos shot, I got all these things done, my numbers look great. You're standing on a higher horse of assets where in cases where we have to go back and then produce these things, now you're already putting yourself on a debt sheet. We got to pay this back and that back and that back. I don't even want to get into radio expenses and all that, so it's just breaking down the expenses. A lot of people don't understand what a video promoter is. They think, I submitted my stuff to MTV and I'm going to get Well, there's a process with that.
Don't you have to go through like lawyers to have that, like the what is the proper term for it? Like in order to get your record heard like to a label, it has to go through a lawyer.
Well, you need to already have inside counsel, first off.
Okay.
A lot of people can complain about their deals, but a lot of times they're utilizing the label's lawyer. So at the end of the day, you need to have your own representation. You know, if you walk in with your management, your legal team, you have, again, your collective assets. Now you're coming more to the table from a business scenario where you're offering the assets and drivers, and then I'm offering the investment and my relationships as that label, and then we can work a better JV scenario.
Right.
But when you come to the table with just, hey, I can sing.
Right. That's all you bring
I
to
mean,
the
you
table.
know, that's nice.
Right.
That's nice. That you can, that's wonderful. But at the end of the day, now we have to make this become a thing that people are going to buy into.
Right.
You know, it's just like, again, if I introduce the Coca-Cola to you before it was Coca-Cola, and I poured it into a plastic cup and I handed it to you, and you're like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
You should bottle this up.
Yeah.
Well, then there's a whole process to that, you know, so that's the best way to look at it, you know.
Now, you know, you kind of spoke on 360 deals, and for the people, JV is joint venture.
Joint venture,
So yeah, just, you know, for the people. But you spoke on the 360 deals, and you know, you hear a lot of, you know, gripes about that, and a lot of people that are against it. You know, you hear from major artists, you hear from, you know, up and coming artists like, I'm not signing no 360 deal. Explain what is a 360 deal and how do they differ from artist to artist?
Technically, every deal is its own original deal, because obviously not one person is doing the same works that another individual is doing. And with that, you have to look at the overall investment in today's world. There are multitudes of campaigns that you have to run. You have to run the virtual world, and then you have to run the physical world that we actually live in, that you can touch things. So now you're doubling up on campaigning. At the end of the day, you have to look at every expense that's put out by a label has to be recouped. Even with an advance, there's still going to be a form of recoup. If you go to RCA, you go to, notice most of the major companies are in a building with a bank. So there's a multitude of credit lines and all these scenarios that are brought into play from the label element that are making the investment into you as a product. So in making that investment, a 360 deal is 360 degrees away, or around, excuse me, from your shows, your merchandise, obviously collection on royalties and publishing and these avenues. But you're in a position where you can negotiate those percentages, and then where you can set up a sense where after you reach a certain number of sales, you maybe can be able to get your masters back after a certain time. You can buy back certain rights. You have to know how to play ball in business and know what those things specifically mean in those lanes. Like if you're going to do merchandise, well, at the end of the day, you know merch always is going to come up. So one thing that you should be doing early is finding a manufacturing company yourself that can already produce your merchandise. So when you go back to that table, you're like, okay, 360, I understand what you're saying, but this is the merch that I already have.
Right.
These are the numbers that I'm already making. Now, if you want to advance me X amount of dollars that I already was looking at making in my fiscal year based upon what I've already been making prior to us sitting down, I can consider that. But to just give you all these rights for X percent, I need to know what you're going to do besides take that element of money. You know, if you're telling me, well, look, we're going to get you a Live Nation, you're going to do 60 shows guaranteed in the year. You know, all right, that sounds great, but doing those 60 shows, what are all the stipulations in between that? And then what is the percentage that you're asking to take from me? Because if that's the case, I'd rather do the deal with you and keep my merch because I'm already making X amount of dollars and I sell them myself. And then the amount that I make, I can put that toward you recouping from my advancement that you're advancing me if you want to go that way. So it's just a good back and forth. Like it's not a, oh, they're terrible. No, it's a 360 deals are great. They're a great concept. But you got to know how to play ball on your end. You have to have your counsel. You know, you sit down and have the initial meeting and then you divide. You go regroup with your counsel. And I don't mean, and no disrespect, but I don't mean your homeboy who whatever from the block. That's not what I'm talking. I'm talking about professionals that you hire to have your best interests at hand. And you hire them because you're compensating them to work directly for you. This is not a percent thing. Oh, no, get on my team so, I give you 20% of nothing is nothing. And if you're going to hire somebody that's going to make sure that that deal is in best interest of you, you need to be compensating them on a retainer scenario.
True.
So that's kind of all I'll say at the moment about 360.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's really about investing into yourself.
Yeah.
You got to invest into the
assets
lawyers. You
that
got to
bring
invest
to the
into the
table.
team.
Yeah.
Now, you kind of speaking from an artist standpoint, but like you say, you're an executive, and you have 2 labels.
Right.
You have the EDM label, and then is it
Others Records South, which
okay.
Waleed Coyote started Others Records.
Okay.
Man, with our partnership and relationship, we agreed, do Others Records South.
Okay.
And Others Records South is a service-based label, meaning we provide artist services.
Okay.
Radio, video promotion, marketing, so on and so forth, consultation. But at the same time, if there's a project that comes across, we are able to sign that project, and after it reaches a certain analytical world,
Right.
then we can upstream to Others Records,
Right.
which we're all distributed by Empire.
Now how does that work? Not to really, get into how y'all, y'all pockets, but is y'all get a percentage, or do y'all like, is it y'all artists, y'all signing the artists? I know you said y'all helping the
In
artists
regards to the upstream,
Yeah.
or are you talking about Others Records South?
out. The others Records South.
Others Records South, if you came to me and you're like, look, I want to get X services, we obviously, you compensate for those services. But if we gather an interest based upon the fact that you're under our distribution because we're releasing your product, we have a set standard of what we take from that. You agree to that, that's fine. The beautiful thing about Empire, it's a non-exclusive.
Okay.
So you're always able to shift your content if something else comes about. If another company's interested, whatever, you can shift content.
Okay.
But at the same time, it's about being wise. Would I shift content and leave Empire if something built, if I was an artist? No. Ghazi himself has made investments even to our artists like Luke Nasty. So it's like you're already in a major label scenario when you're with Empire or you deal with Others Records or even Others Records South. Now it's about numerically getting your numbers up and building up that world by utilizing the available platforms that we reach out to. The same thing that a major label is going to do on Outsource. We all do inside. So yeah, we take a percent, but it's a negotiable percent. So that's even like down to a J Ving.
That's kind of like the new independent, like people say.
That is a new independent movement.
Okay.
Look, study Empire.
Yeah.
If you study Empire, everybody more than likely is coming with their brand.
Yeah.
Then they're bringing Empire on as well. And then it's their brand, Empire, like Others Empire. Because Empire has the distribution side and it has the record label side. So yeah, I mean, that's majority major hip hop artists today are distributed by Empire.
Right.
And what a lot of people don't know, Empire's still in bed with Atlantic. Atlantic's still owned by Warner. So it's like you're still in the system. Because you got to think, if you're putting up TuneCore sales, where's your actual support factors? You don't have an office that would, work your project and go for features and placements and just different types of stuff for your content. When you're at Empire, you already have that in bed. You just need to be making some noise.
True.
And then when you make a noise, of course, a Ghazi would say, hey, that's pretty cool. This should probably do a radio campaign. And if you don't have the funding for it, if it analytically makes sense, you may get a deal offer from him. It just puts you already in position for the possibility instead of just whatever, you just never know. So I always preach that. Ghazi and I connected through Waleed, but it was funny that he was working at Fontana Ingrooves when I was at EMG Universal, running the Dirty Heads project. We did a record called Lay Me Down, which went 18 weeks Billboard.
Okay.
And Ghazi was involved with that. So it was like when we reconnected via Waleed, it was like, let's go. Like, now I'm slowly working to try to get an EDM wing
Nimbus,
of Empire.
right?
Well, Nimbus Universal is
Okay.
an EDM label that I started. And I started that because when I was in college in Manchester, England, I started dealing with people like Goldie. I don't know if you're familiar, but Goldie was like a pretty big drum and bass DJ.
Yeah.
He played in the movie Snatch with Brad Pitt and stuff. He was the guy with the blonde hair.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, so it was just like being around environments, different people like that and going to these shows and all that. It's like, this house music, drum and bass and, all that's cool. And then it really started hitting me like, wait a minute. Freedom Williams, CNC Factory, Carl Cox. And then I started studying, well, what brother of Moorish descent or if you want to use the word black, I prefer brown if you get to the black and brown thing, just because black, if you take out the B, it has the word lack, and brown, if you take out the BR, it has the word own. So I would rather say brown in that scenario. But I like to go back to things that we started, but maybe don't have high priority claim to. And when I was Googling, I was searching, I could not find one ownership of label like
EDM.
from a brother.
I saw you were the first.
I'm actually the first one that's open genre. Now there were some trance labels and all that, but open genre label, I'm the first one.
Yeah.
And with that, it was like, okay, that's cool, that's wonderful, pat on the back, but I haven't done anything yet. So I had to figure out how to make this into something. And then, you know, the universe connected me with Glenn Goodhand.
Okay.
And with Glenn and I connecting here in Atlanta, Glenn was just stepping back onto the scene. He had been doing raves and things in the past. And he was like, no, this time I'm going full throttle. I'm building up my Iris brand. And going on 5-6 years now, he successfully had Iris Presents, Iris Promotions, utilizing the facility or venue at Rush Lounge on Beaver Highway.
Okay.
And I'm talking like great numbers every Saturday. I mean, watch this build up. And as we, you know, kept working together on different things, like I'm in the venue and I'm like, man, this is amazing, because all these new DJs, these local DJs who are growing and blossoming and they're learning production, all that, I got first grabs with him in order to grab them and do different things and projects and so on and so forth. And then Imagine Fest came about, and that started in 2013. And now it's grown to this year, where last year we did like about 100,000+ kids at the Speedway.
Okay.
Where the first year it was like 11,000.
Right.
But this year is Dead Mal and Tiesto. They're all headline. So it's a beautiful thing to go back to me and Glenn in the car.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, and
With
to
the
see where things are now.
Yeah.
So, but looking back at that, it's about paying homage to the people that came before even me, and saying, well, how do I kind of like pay that homage by setting platforms to where locals, because it can always come back to locals. It's never, you never jump to, oh, now I'm this big, whatever. It all starts somewhere. And by being on the ground with these kids and having the support and the promoters and club owners that I know globally, one of the cool things I was able to do via Mandrick Guy, he's a club owner in Japan, Fukuoka, Japan.
Okay.
We did a deal, and I grabbed like 4 kids that were from Atlanta, and one of them had never even been on a plane before.
Yeah.
And over 30,000 invested just in, you know, the travel, the lodging, the pay. And they're making, you know, a couple thousands of dollars by going to Japan, playing festivals because of these relationships that I've established. But I gave that right back to the community for them to have those experiences.
Wow.
You know, and that's what it's all about. I think that's what gives you community longevity. And then just me engaging with the community, period, like Peggy Johnson, who's at the Colowald School, the Candler family who started Coca-Cola owns, and you know, going there and supporting different events and things that she does at the school, and all the way down to the Ryan Seacrest Children's Cancer Ward. Ryan Seacrest started the station in there, the Voice station in there, and I gathered everybody from the label, all the acts that I have, and we went in there, man, and we did like a little rave in the hospital.
Yeah.
And we had kids come down, real sick kids come down, man, but they enjoyed themselves. One kid, he had half a heart, came down. It was like 3 people that had their system coming. He was like, man, I just want to hear music. You know, I just wanted to, you know, see what we brought out, you know, the Midnight Panda. They had like a little panda bear guy, and then, you know, we deal with like bass bot guy on stilts in a robot outfit. Now, this the fun elements of the rave world. And I know sometimes there's negative connotations that come about from that world, but I look at the EDM community predominantly to be like Zion. If you take the movie The Matrix, you know, it's a mix of cultures and people who like a multitude of genres of music that are all like hanging out, having a good time together, and nobody's saying, oh, you're this race or that race. There's no divide. Like, everybody's just enjoying the moment, and that's what EDM is about from my perspective of it. And then the fact that, you know, trap music,
it's transferring over.
It definitely has.
And that's what I was gonna ask you. Like, were you always like a big fan of it, or did you just see the opportunity? And like you say, the trap music, like the Waka Flockas and all those type of guys.
Truth being told, Steve Garza, who had Prototype Radio, who is now one of the heads at iHeartRadio here in Atlanta. He was telling me for the longest, Rob, push trap, like you're right here, because trap comes from T.I., Young Jeezy, the Walkers, that 808 feel being embedded and mixed into the different sound design worlds of EDM, and then been kind of mashed up in a sense where you're taking like the lead vocal of a hook or parts of a verse, 4-bar, 8-bar, and then you do the initial, you build it up, and then you got your drop, and then everybody loses their mind and goes crazy. And I've been a part of the wave, but unfortunately I wasn't in a position to where I could have been a big influencer on it. I kind of missed that boat, but I definitely had the chance to before Little John, DJ Snake turned down for What's and all that. Like I just had a lot going on where I was trying to take a certain artist and kind of push it more of a mainstream EDM feel without paying more attention to what was already right here up for grabs in my backyard. But there were a lot of artists, and still are a lot of artists that had that were like Cali the Kid, Midnight Panda, have been engaging consistently with your Migos and all these other individuals and working toward EDM tracks. And it's been going on for a while, just now it's really more mainstream focus of the sound. So.
Now you spoke a lot about a lot of the relationships you had. Like I mentioned at the beginning, you've been in the industry since you were 3. I know you were born in North Carolina, but you spent a lot of time in Japan. You grew up in Japan.
Yeah, I grew up in Japan. My mother had me doing modeling and those things when I was.
Was she in entertainment? I know you said she was a singer.
She was modeling and she had the capabilities of singing, but she hadn't progressed it to later. And doing this transition of her getting a position with DISE, Department of Defense Schools, they flew her to Japan. So while in Japan, just a lot of things started happening early. If you're familiar with the show Iron Chef.
Yeah.
So the original Iron Chef, the guy who he had long hair, used to bite into the onion and all that. I ended up doing a Japanese baseball movie with him at 3. And that was kind of a popular thing. And so I'm going to studios and we're shooting, we're filming. And then on the other end, my mother got with a group that they created called Harmony. So Harmony's doing all these covers and original content. And then they get with Jet Sonic Productions, they get with Sony. The next thing I know, they're doing like this animation thing. It's everything built up. So my household was like very weird. It was like you go to school. After school though, you're going to studios, you're going to shows, acting coach, this, that, and the third. Like it literally was like what you see a lot of these kid actors and stuff like that here in America go through. Yeah. I was going through all the same transitions, but I was just going through it in Japan. And the funny thing is like, during the 80s and 90s, you could be mediocre at what you did. And you would still, not something where, this is just promotion. No, you were getting paid.
Oh, okay.
Like the whole time, I made money from 3 forward. My first 10K deal I closed with the military base. I was 16. A partner that I was dealing with, I had Tone One Productions, Daniel Brooks. He had me working at a company called KSR Records. This is when I used to have to get on the train and like take all the flyers and posters of Japanese artists and whatever. This is like old label stuff where you have to take the posters and flyers, go to every train station, post stuff up. But I was still in high school. I was still in middle schools. I was still going to school and still having to do these things. But the biggest breakout for me and the thing that really made this real for me, and I know Tommy Mottola doesn't get the best rap from people's rumors or whatever, but 1996 Dream Day tour, Mariah Carey.
You were a performer. Like, what exactly did you do?
I was on the choir, sung with her.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so we did all the shows for the tour at Tokyo Dome. Yeah, got compensated, Sony contracted to do that. And that is something that really opened my eyes to a multitude of things. Yeah. Because I could try to set the stage for you. You're leaving high school, you're getting on a bus, and you're going to stadium every day that the tour is going on. And sound check, sound, light, the dancers, all the behind the scenes element, the green rooms, it is. You're being put in the world, in another country. So I never focused like, oh man, I gotta get to America. Everything America could have had to offer, I was already experiencing right there in Japan.
Not to cut you off, Now, did you feel like being overseas helped your brand more than it did in America? Like, did it make you? I guess did it take you to a higher level than you would have if you would have grown in America?
I'm very well cultured because of that, and I'm blessed because of that, and that's the reason why I tell multitudes of people, please get a passport and travel beyond the Caribbean, if you will. Go east, go as far east as you can, and don't ever get caught up in the hype. Oh, Dubai is great, cool, but Bahrain is more the financial district of the world, like, or not the world, but the Middle Eastern, well, that area, let me put it like that, between Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Abu Dhabi, and Dubai. See other places that aren't just always hyped.
Right.
Because, like I'll tell you right now, to anybody who designs clothes, if you want to get furs, you go to Uzbekistan, go to Kazakhstan, go to Samarkand, go to Turkmenistan. Because they're pulling the animals, they're skinning them, and they got them at the bazaars. But the currency is so low that when you exchange out $500, and I used to take this for granted. I know I'm not trying to get off subject. We'll get right back to it. I used to take this for granted, but I would get like 5 bundle bags of money. And to me, I'm only thinking it's $500.
Yeah.
But to them, that's a nice chunk of change. When Special Forces military were getting equivalent to $50 a month. Makes you kind of analyze that a little different.
Yeah.
And it was under a dictatorship, but moving back. I definitely feel like that experience with Mariah Carey and me being backstage and Tom Mottola approaching me, having like my quick moment, and I was kind of telling, oh man, I love like just everything that's happening behind the stage. Like, this is amazing to me. And he was like, well, focus on the business. And when he said that, it was like I went from, oh, I want to be a singer to like, I wanna like be behind the world of what's actually transpiring. And fun fact, Randy Jackson, who people know from American Idol and all that, he was the bass player.
Oh, okay.
So he's on stage with me. All this, so I got to see everybody kind of grow into like who they later became on mainstream. And I go back and look like, bro, we was all just, so it's different for me. Like, I don't look at, artists or celebrities as stars. Like Big Crit said, if you want to see a star, just look above, for instance. I look at people as people, and it's about your work. Like, if you're working, you will end up where you're supposed to be because you have a consistency of work ethic equivalent to any other individual that got their break. That was their time and their moment. Study and learn and keep elevating yourself. So my biggest thing is to speak out, especially to anybody that might be on a military installation that watches your program and might be like, man, in order for me to do what I want to do, I have to be in America, or I have to do that. It's not true. Like, when you identify your passion, it's just about support matters, family support and all that, but it's about you knowing that this is what you truly want to do. Because I'll tell you, my passion is no longer music. My passion has switched now in my mid 30s. And, I'm more focused on education, re-education, and formulating institutes of knowledge offshore. Because I feel like the millennial generation that we're dealing with now is so technologically based that there's a limit of researchable information that existed when I was coming up, but everything is in the fingertips of everybody today. And it's all about what you're researching and why you're researching it. But you become a better you when you can identify your DNA and your bloodline and where you come from and who your ancestors are. That gives you even further drive and motivation. And when you make a stronger connection with that, you will connect stronger with the universe to see even better results. Because people who think that universal energy is not real, they're tripping. Because if it wasn't for universal energy and humbling yourself and just learning how to be, like I said, cultured. You go to these different countries, you don't have this, I'm this on my chest, I'm American. No, you're in somebody else's country in their homeland. Get to know them. Become accustomed to their way of thinking and their food and all that. And then what'll happen? People will support your mentality and what you're interested in and maybe your passions, and they'll open up doors of connection. We call it networking. Well, you can't network with somebody who from the same place you from, because what do you know about the land that you're currently in unless you're engaging with people who reside there? So it's just all these things you have to take into consideration, even when it comes back down to the initial conversation, which is The music business.
Right.
The music business is based upon an artist or a multitude of artists taking their sound or their content and spreading it to people where it's going to touch somebody, to where that artist brand and their music becomes a part of your life. So everybody has, oh, this is my driving song, or this is what I listen to in the shower, or this is what I listen to when I'm in the, it's mood, right? But mood comes back down to you as a human, and you as a human, you have emotions. So you need different music to play into different elements of your emotion. If we're about to pop bottles and turn up, we may not play this one genre, we may play this genre for the moment, you know? So it's just about people really identifying their talent and how to market their talent, and then how to utilize their own inner circle resources and networks to help expand their talent.
So what would you wrap, you know, with everything you've done, what would you wrap your talent into? Like, what would you say your talent is?
I mean, I'm learning that I'm a little bit of everything, but even in my current situation right now, we're pushing this romp life thing with an artist by the name of J.Black.
I saw that. Is that like a mockery or?
Yeah, I mean, what happened was it started out as it's a vape company. It had a store called Big Bang, and they have, like, you know, the vapes, and then they have a clothing store that they opened. Also, that's a part of the vape shop. And because the romper thing became kind of like a trending thing, they just wanted to make a little commercial. So J.Cap created the record, and I'm like, so that in those scenarios, even with that, you know, it's the same thing. It's a company that's involved outside of a label like myself. So that particular company, man, they do a facet of things. They have manufacturing for clothes. They have the vapes. They even make chocolate. You know, they do this a lot. And it's just like, that's another advice I would give to, you know, even an artist. Tie yourself in with other genres of business that do different things and figure out how you can do a B2B, brand-to-brand connection. And, you know, people, oh, well, if I could get an endorsement. There are so many local or up-and-coming businesses that would support you as long as they see that you have some kind of following and people engaging in it or whatever you're doing.
Right. So how would you suggest, because like you say, it is a lot of businesses, how would you suggest an artist presenting themselves to one of those businesses?
Well, I mean, I don't care if you're Nicki Minaj. It always comes back down to principal corporate presentation, man. You got to have a deck. You have to have your EPK. And I used to hate that word, EPK. It's like, oh my God, like I keep hearing it. It's irritating. You have a website, that is your EPK. But no, you still have to have everything broken down to where you yourself, it's all about, like in a relationship, man, woman. You can't get upset with her, or she can't get upset with you if you two haven't traded places in the scenario. That's why it's always better to think before you talk and before you engage about any circumstance. So it's the same thing in business. If I'm the artist, let me pause. If I want this company to get interested in me, let me learn a lot about this company so then I can put on my hat as this company, and then look back at what I'm presenting, you know, via this artist, and then see if that would make me excited. You know, and it's about you doing your own R&R, you know what I mean? Your reconnaissance, your research, you know, run your own R&D team, you know, research development on whatever you're thinking about trying to be affiliated with. And yeah.
But you know, we live in a world where, you know, those social media numbers are important. Like how important are the, when you present to a business or even to a label for that matter, how important are those numbers? What do you suggest, you know, to build those numbers?
I mean, those numbers are very important. They're very important because as of November of last year, you know, the business switched to where streaming accounts for digital sell. Nobody really sells records like they used to, obviously. So being that streams, you know, count that way, that's another reason why we were able to have 2 gold records on DJ Luke Nasty within a year and a half, because of the engagement the engagement of social media, the streams, your YouTubes, your Spotify's, your Shazam, so on and so forth. All those elements help because people are always sharing things with each other. So again, you have your virtual world, and then you have your real world you can touch. In this real world, if I told you, hey, DJ Luke Nasty has this new record, you know, Downtown ATL with Swift, and I told you about it, you're like, oh, that's cool. I want to, and I'm like, oh, check it out on my phone. You're like, oh, I like that, bro. Send me the link, or what's the link? Yeah. We're doing this one-on-one, in person, physically. But the same thing transpires when I share something with you and then you reshare it because you liked it and you got. So it's the same thing. So it's very important. So I would definitely suggest don't fake it till you make it. Stay as organically as possible because even if your numbers are low, sometimes you can look at cult followings. Look at Devin the Dude, one of my favorite artists. He is not extremely mainstream, but he developed a cult following for what he does and the content that he provides to his specific fans that are gonna buy into what he does specifically. So it's about don't aim, I wanna be up there with Jay-Z and all. That's cool as a goal, I guess, but keep it also realistic. And then watch the clock. It takes on average 20 to 25 years to get to that kind of level. Nobody's made it to certain levels overnight, if you say. And even though we have gold records of this, that, and the third, we're still working. Just because you got it, the work doesn't stop. If anything, now you have more work to do. You have to keep it going.
Yeah. You at this level, so you don't want to go below it.
No, you can't go below it. You can't get caught up into what other people are doing. If anything, support what other people are doing. Don't look at it as a competition. Why? It doesn't make any sense. We're doing something different. If both of us happen to do this type of music, guess what? If I can come out and support on your shows and I can let people know I'm coming out to support you, I may not even be performing, but it's the fact that I'm gonna be in the building. I just brought you some people. And if you do the same thing to me, now we're sharing fans. We're helping each other. And then we'll do a record together. Like, work together is a key, and don't wait, oh man, if I could just get Drake on this song, I know it, but Drake don't know you. So now, how realistic is that? Yeah, and that's another thing. Yeah. Don't have a handout. Yeah. Work for it.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I found, it was real interesting. You were kind of, I don't know if that's the correct title, but an entertainment broker. You made a lot of deals, basically. Take us through one of your biggest deals, because you did, I read you did the concert with like Trillville and but take us through one of your biggest deals. And take us through that, since it seemed like there's a story behind that.
That was the story. Long story short, I had just left Mirage Promotions in Bahrain. I had been offered a position and kind of didn't take that new position. And funny enough, it was for Dubai. And this is 2003 into 2004. And I don't know, I seen Diddy run the city in New York, and I was just like, well, I was born in North Carolina and Winston, so I don't think it's that hard to take it over. I got money, I just go in there and figure it out. So with my relationships, I got my artists. I had Little Flip. This is doing Game Over and Sunshine when it was popular. I had Young Bloods, when the whole A-Town Stump thing was brewing, and Crime Mob and Trillville. And then, I had a couple other up-and-coming acts that were still kind of like filtering in that, the lanes of those other individuals. Like they were literally up-and-coming, like about to break. So, Lawrence Joel Coliseum, I paid for the Coliseum. I paid for my advertisement. I did everything. And it was coming together great. It was coming together great. Until R. Kelly and Jay-Z decided that they were doing the Best of Both Worlds tour 2 weeks before my show in Winston, where I should have made my show in Greensboro. So my whole team was like, pull out, please pull out. We're gonna, and I'm like, no, if I'm gonna crash, I'm gonna go down with my boat. Yeah, half a heart attack almost later. I lost, but I accomplished it, I did it, and I ended up getting hired by Little Flip's team later and relocated to Killeen, Texas to run the whole office up there, just off the relationships that I had built and the fact that, I gave that guy like almost 30 grand, out the pocket to perform, That doesn't include everybody else that I had to compensate. So it's just like, that was college for being in America. And I was cocky and conceited a little bit, arrogant. I knew I was, I lost my track of being humble. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Down. So, it definitely makes you sit down and kind of regroup a little bit. Yeah. But I'll tell you one thing. If it wasn't for me doing that and being at the radio station at 102 Jams in the account department, getting everything set up for my commercials and all of that, I never would have met this Lebanese guy named Waleed Coyote, who later has Others Records and where we are now, Others Record South, and that relationship being so strong that I was in California, and I was leaving California. I got on a plane, was sitting next to a lady named Toy Gray, and she was talking to me about these kids and how wonderful they are and how they just need like a shot. They're called the 336 Boys. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, 336 Boys. And I don't know, I took interest, so we ended up doing business, and DJ Luke Nasty was a member of the 336 Boys. They were 15 and 16 years old, a group of 4 boys, Be Serious and all. And it's funny, like, just watching how I believed in them. I had them open up for Soulja Boy when I worked with Miami Mike at Palm Tree. We had our relationship. Soulja Boy used to be at the house. My daughters at the time, they were just like, who is this kid? Why do we have to take pictures with him, whatever? Then, a couple months later, it's crazy. But no, just being able to have those kids just run around, Young Dros and all these different people and open up and engage. And, to get Waleed involved later and to look how today we're 2 gold records up. Inshallah would be on the 3rd with the next record. But all of these things go back down to what I said in the beginning. It's humbling, it's the universe, it's the network. That's how you get on these waves that we're on. You just don't jump in. It's a process, and it's the consistency. And always doing one thing, sticking to your word, because in truth, that's all you have. And even if you don't stick to your word and try to buy your way back into scenarios, relationships is key in this game, really in every industry. It's all relationships.
Okay, man. To wrap it up, do you have any advice you want to give to the people? Anything you just want to say?
I would definitely to artists, I would say everything that I'm talking about. Go research what I'm talking about. Don't get caught up into other people's scenarios on bad deals because you don't know all the ins and outs of those scenarios. Study. There's no excuse to why you don't understand publishing, why you don't understand how to get licensing and sync deals and what those are. And don't get so caught up in just making your one particular sound. Get diverse because you may create something that could be a jingle. It doesn't matter to singers. Don't get caught up in just thinking that you have to perform your own original content. If you have the capabilities to sing very well, covers are still a great thing to do. Covers can start getting you money now. Doing shows where you are a cover act can get you money now. Again, this is a business. You don't want to be that person that's sitting there and your girlfriend's just like, oh my God, are you going to get a job? Because, this is, it's a dream. I'll support it, but where's the money from it? There is a multitude of ways that you can get money in this business, and that's another reason why I offer consultation. So I sit down and I go over, these different things with people. Obviously, I charge because it's a business, but I think that I'm pretty credible to give advice. But yeah, it's just don't let somebody tell you you can't do something, but at the same time, be realistic about what you're trying to do. Now, to regular people that are consumers or people that, when I say regular, in the sense of non-music industry direct people, we're living in a time of where consistent mutual engagements with others is key. You never know who somebody is or who that person knows. And they may take something lightly that may be the most humongous jewel ever for you. Like, for instance, if you are starting a t-shirt line, but you're looking for a company to do a deal to manufacture your t-shirts, and there's a guy right there sitting right next to you hanging out on your Facebook, your IG, you might have hung out with him in a section and smoked a hookah, but you didn't really engage with them like that or her like that. It may never come up, oh, well, my cousin does that or my this does that. People have to continue to talk to people even outside of social media platforms. Let's just keep our positive engagement with one another, and vibe with the universe, man.
And where can they find you at? What's your social media?
At Record Exec Rob, www.robertthorn.biz. The Trinity Factory, I didn't speak on that. One of my good buddies and business partners, Andy Tadak, he created the Trinity Factory, which now we're in bed with Nick Cannon, with Incredible and Jermaine Dupri, So Def, and a bunch of other brands responsible for 99%, and just did a record with Flow Rider that just went gold with the Cake record. Young Swag, O-Life at 300. We had the We Are Tunes, the whole thing. He was responsible for helping Michael Molden put the whole Let's Dance tour together. That was kind of like the Scream tour that just had. So yeah, I mean, you know, all these kids, man, D-Lo, Silentos, iHeartMan, like all these individuals are like all family, and everybody works together on a multitude of different things, man. I think, you know, looking at the connections, if anybody researches in depth who I'm tied in with, then find ways that we can even do something together regardless of what it is that you do. You know, I'm always open to anything, you know, because you never know.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's Rob, the executive, Robert Thorn. I'm J.Black, Innovative Black Station.
Really, man, professionalism, just standing on the morals that has got me this far, being very professional and organized. Every placement I've got as a producer was not because I sent somebody a beat. It's like, yeah, it was my professionalism.
You know, there's a lot going on in my family this season, and fortunately, but unfortunately, it's all being aired out on, you know, national television. But, you know, the reason why we're even doing this show is to help people who can identify with our situation.